It's round 5, and if I win this game, I will be close to the leaders of the tournament. But this is a morning round, which means that my opponent had the whole night available to check my games and prepare. So my opponent looked at my previous over-the-board event from last year, where I scored 4 points out of 5 with the Jobava. And he went exactly for the line in which I had the only loss. Now, we already know Alex Banze is a stupid guy, but is he silly enough to humiliate himself in front of us, losing against the same variation twice? Well, watch this video till the end in order to find out. On a more serious note, Black goes for short castle where I play knight e5, and now there is a big theoretical choice. Any knight to d7 is basically possible, c6 is possible, but the main move is of course what my opponent did, c5. Queen to d2, and this is actually the point where I'm deviating from my only loss, which probably my opponent prepared accordingly to, where I went for dc5 instead, which is the Eric Rosen line. But of course, queen d2 is the main move in the position if you want to play for an advantage. dc5 is just very trappy, but not that strong, objectively speaking. So after thinking for a bit, taking in the center, I have to recapture with the pawn, getting back the central anchor, and it's very important that I start with this move order f3 and I'm not rushing with long castle. This is critical so that white is in time to play bishop b5 in this position, which is the critical opening idea that pretty much revitalizes the variation. Now, it's possible for black to take on e5 and play knight d7, and the lines are very complicated after long castle. But most people online tend to simply defend with rook to c8. This is also possible, and my opponent went for it. And now the trick is to take on c6 and go for the positional knight a4, heading towards the weak square on c5. And now black has a choice between two knight moves, and depending which one he plays, it will become obvious whether my opponent is still in preparation or not, because one of the moves is leading to equality and the other one is giving white close to winning advantage. And the best move is actually to play knight d8, which is strange. Knight d7, the human bad move, fighting for the center right away with the pieces, but allowing white to get a strategic grip over the position. And I can tell you I had this position countless times in online games, even against grandmasters, and I had pretty good results. Okay, bishop takes. I don't have much of a choice. This is why I played knight a4. Now, this is pretty much where I am starting to play on my own. I still know that I'm supposed to castle and play bishop h6 with g4 pretty much no matter what my opponent does. And I am familiar with the evaluation of the position that white is about +1 with a variety of moves. So very happy with this opening outcome, and I really need to win this game in order to start chasing the pack of players that are in the top boards of the tournament. So I'm not allowed to make a slip from here. Bishop f5. Very strange move, considering the fact that my opponent could have taken with the queen. So he just did this back and forth that really confused me. Now, the simple move is to castle long. But because my opponent tempted me with this little strange zigzag, I'm also considering just to go for immediate punishment. G4, Yeah, a big problem this game is that I wanted so much to win that I started playing like a needy boyfriend, which I don't act like that normally anymore. But uh, the problem with my aggressive play is that my opponent lacked useful moves, and now it's gonna be much more easy for him to just answer my direct threats. So it was perfect time to just ignore and castle. Okay, e5, very logical, but that doesn't stop me from continuing the attacking plan. I remember that my calculation was to simply play bishop h6 with idea to open up the file, trade bishops, infiltrate with the queen. But I'm starting to be somewhat afraid that after bishop h6, maybe I underestimated the fact that black can trade bishops, and I'm noticing potential for g5 move. And I'm a little bit afraid that my queen gets stuck. So I'm not really very confident about allowing this central mess. Bishop h6, what to do? I have to continue the attack. Now, I know that black can sort of always take the pawn on f3. And I'm not trying to calculate this until checkmate. But I just know in the long run, I should be getting good compensation after long castle. And then I will have both cannons lined up towards enemy king on G and H file. And in such positions with opposite castlings, it's totally worth to sacrifice pawns to open up lines. Okay, so queen f6, logical move, bringing the queen closer to the king. And it's important to mention that opening up the h file is no longer leading to such a big attack. So I'm keeping options to maybe trade bishops and push h6. But I also want to look for drawback of the move, and I'm start calculating bishop g5. And I quickly spot that queen d6 is okay for black. So other than that, I can choose between fg, bishop g7, HG, or castle. But normally it's best to finish development before you go for more concrete options. Which I knew. I don't know why I did this g4 and I didn't start with castling. Okay, do not ask me why. It was a morning round. Okay, finally, the blondie remembers to castle. That is great news. That is some really great news right there. ED4, my opponent is trying to liquidate into simplifications. Another move that gave me confidence. ED4, I knew at the very least there is this idea of playing FG and then rook DG1. And finally, I'm starting to feel like some momentum on the king side is switching into my favor. I decide to start with the bishop trade. It's a move I would have to play at some point. Okay, what to recapture with? Okay, we see the fianchetto queen. Okay, does your queen even fianchetto, bro? I don't know. I'd rather have my queen not fianchetto if possible, but I'm not gonna judge anyone, okay? FG. Tempo move. Tempo move and bishop takes g4. Maybe it's still defendable position, but rook dg1. From a human perspective, it's just terrifying. You cannot play bishop takes h5 because I take with the rook. Queen and king are gonna be in trouble. Bishop e4. I haven't considered this move at all, but low-hanging fruit, obviously take it and then restore material equality. And I'm trying to dive a little bit deeper into the nuances of this endgame because I have a slight time advantage. And I try to use it and understand if I can actually be better in that position. We will have even pawns, but black's pawn is going to be quite far advanced on e4. So it's a little bit of a tricky decision, practically speaking. I feel like objectively best play is probably to still do some h6 and play for attack. But from a human perspective, the more I look at knight e4 and queen d4, the more it looks like I'm going to get a rook endgame with an extra pawn that's going to be risk-free and quite difficult to hold practically for my opponent. Knight e4, okay. Here you can see a similar procedure to what I also did in the first round of this tournament. We start with attacking play and look for the appropriate time to switch gears into better endgame. It's very difficult for black to protect e4. You would love to play f5, but that simply hangs the pawn on g6. The problem for my opponent is that e4 cannot be protected by other pawns. And if you go rook e8, I can at the very least go pawn trade and then rook d7. And I'm attacking a pawn while threatening to double up on the 7th rank. This is very scary. Opponent plays rook e8. Nevertheless, what to do? Probably best practical chance. Hg6 and instantly rook c7. This move really surprised me. I mean, if you gave me 10 guesses, I probably wouldn't have found it. Rook c7, my opponent simply didn't want to allow me to infiltrate on the 7th, but I think he overestimated that. Okay, at this point I already have extra pawn. There is a simple move. Could have also played rook h7, which I didn't consider. I just went for easy play. Rook f7 and now rook to d6. So I'm trying to optimize the d rook. The h rook is already quite useful, plus it might need to stay there to babysit enemy pawn. So rook d6, just very difficult for my opponent to defend the pawn. If you play rook c7, then this rook is a little bit too passive. I have ideas to check. Same happens for rook c8, I have rook e6. So if you go c5, rook d5, asking questions. I'm up a pawn and it feels like my rooks simply have way better mobility. Rook g7, targeting g4. I don't think there is time to play rook g1 because of e3, so I'm entering the clinches. Rook c6, rook g4. Pawns are being traded off. Now, I still need the h1 rook for defensive purposes, so we gotta optimize the c6 rook. This is gonna be the attacking piece. Rook c7, multi-purpose move, attacking the pawn, and also preparing a pretty sneaky idea. I believe my opponent completely overlooked what I was preparing. Rook g2, actually quite a tricky move from a practical perspective, because if I go for the poison pawn, I believe there was rook c8. And if I go c3, the position becomes way more tricky than it looks after rook b8. Because if you go b3, then suddenly the rook can switch back to d8. And all of a sudden, my opponent is threatening to play rook d2. And if he's able to get 2 rooks on the 7th rank, he can play perpetual check. But this rook h7 critical detail, I'm actually about to force a rook trade. So e3, sneaky move. It looks like black is losing a rook. But if I check king g6, I cannot capture because I get mated. So my king is in mating net. I need to be careful, but I can go for simplification. Now, after trading a pair of rooks, the pawn on e3 is just too far advanced. And by the looks of it, I should be able to simply collect. If I'm able to collect this pawn, then I should have technically winning rook endgame. 2 connected extra pawns should be enough. Rook g3, and Initially, I wanted to play and get the king, but I felt like it gives black enough time to get close. So I'm looking for a different route, which is quite unnatural. And I end up playing king d1, king d7, king e2. And this way, it's a little bit faster. Black is not in time to bring his king. King c6, you'd think that this should be game over, but I have massively underestimated during the game how difficult it will be to play on increment. As you can see, I look pretty chill despite the fact that the time is getting low, but my opponent did a very good job in actually starting to complicate the matters. He played this a5, which wasn't so easy to deal with because I tried to play standard template move a4, but all of a sudden rook g4 and some nasty counterplay appears on the window. I have only one move to protect pawn pretty much, and this is b3. And now suddenly my opponent has a crazy idea, because if I can get my king to b2, I have easy position, but now he goes king b4, going for the Manuel Neuer king. I activate the rook, targeting his own pawn. Checks me, and I cannot hide from the checks. I have to go to c1 and stay nearby the pawn. I'm threatening to play king b2. If I can get the king there, that's GG. But Manuel Neuer king threatening to mate. I have to get my opponent out of my life and my wife. No, it's not inside my wife. King a3, king d1. King d1. What? Dude, this guy, he has to chill. King b2. No, what am I doing? Rook c5. I need to start attacking. Rook to c5. Okay, give up on c2. I have to take on a5. I have to take on a5, and I will still be up 2 pawns, but suddenly not so clear. Rook a5. Okay, the eval bar is not bothered, but it certainly shouldn't have gotten to this point. Now, luckily, I can actually afford to lose the pawn on b3 because black can never trade rooks. Otherwise, my a pawn will promote. So I'm realizing that, okay, king d2, I can start bringing my king. And at this point, I was just thinking to start playing some random moves to build time on the clock, but my opponent just resigned. I guess I just looked so confident that he resigned, but I didn't have a clear plan on how to win this. Before I let you go, I need to clarify that my wife has not been harmed during the conversion of this endgame, and please leave a like and a comment to help the video performance. It genuinely takes at least 7-8 hours to edit these short videos, to the point where I almost lost my Duolingo streak. And muchachos, I will see you in the next video, where I'm gonna be playing the Caro-Kann. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.